All right, today we're going to be making a poker table for Summit Roofing. We're working with Matt's Woodworks. We've done a bunch of jobs for him in the past, and we're going to wrap the outside rail in some leather and then do the felt on the center part. Matt does a lot of cool stuff over there. Check out his channel. I'll put the link in the description. All right, so right here I'm going to put 1/4 inch closed cell foam on the board with the felt. Right here, Frank Johnson's telling me some kind of a Halloween story or something. I don't know what he's talking about. I was clearly shake my head. Anyway, so he's a great storyteller, guys. I'm putting some contact adhesive on here. I'm going to go ahead and dress this right up front. I'm not wearing a mask, right? The shop is well ventilated. Ever since I got these glasses, I can't see anymore. I'm getting older. It's a real pain in the butt it's on and off with the mask, on and off with the glasses, on and off with the mask. I mean, I'll spend half my day taking the glasses and mask on and off and on and off. So don't worry about me. Shop's well ventilated. Moving on. We're gonna put this foam down on here. I don't want to get any air bubbles. This foam, you can't peel it up. You can't peel. Oh my gosh, I got an air bubble. All right, so what are you gonna do with the air bubble? I was gonna try to cut it with a razor blade. My hands shake. You're gonna see my hands shaking. I'm not hungover, I promise. I've been sober for a long time actually. I have trimmers. I have essential trimmers, and so, you know, there's no excuse. My hands shake and I do upholstery. What's your excuse? Whatever it is you're doing, there's no excuse. Just do it. I put a pin in it. That's what I did. I put a pin in it. I put a pin in it. Just stick a pin in it. So it's nice and smooth. I'm giving that thing a massage, making sure it's stuck. There's David helping me flip it over. Now I'm going to glue the edge of this thing and get the glue is something you have to really learn to use the glue in upholstery, because there's different ways to use the glue. You have to let it dry properly. If you don't let it dry properly, it's not going to stick. Sometimes you got to do like a double tack. Sometimes you need to set it when the glue's wet. Sometimes when you're doing carpet, a little bit wet. There's different things. Here comes the razor blade. When the razor blades come out, this part's done. I like the razor blade part. The razor blade part. It's one of my favorite parts. All right, so now I'm gonna put this logo on the felt on the center board, and me and Matt were looking at this thing, and this logo doesn't lend well for centering. If you look at it, it has a straight line on the bottom. It's got a triangle point on this end. It's got 3 points on the top, but they're not equal. And then the other side, the triangle point disappears. So what we decided was that they centered the logo on the black part when they printed it. So I'm just gonna center the black part on the board. And I'm trying to figure out where to start right here. Do I start over here? I want to start on the end. I put my center marks on the back of the board before I started. I didn't want to have any chalk on the top of the board or on the foam. I didn't know if it would bleed through. That's the last thing I want. So I'm like, I'm gonna start on the end, I'm start on the side, start on the top. Let me start right here. Just start right here. Kind of stretch it a little bit as I go. Look at my head moving like a bird. That's funny. I took my time getting this thing started. A lot of times when I'm starting something like this that I really want it to be centered right, I'll put a few staples, and when I staple, I'll go in further than I actually am going to, like my final staple line will be, because if I'm off, I want to be able to move that around a little bit. So there'll always be a handful of staples that I'm going to move when I'm done. You can see on the back it worked out pretty well. All I had to do was really pull the material down until the black was like even on the back side once I had it set in place. I'm going to recheck all my measurements. Everything's looking good. Yeah, see the line? worked out actually pretty slick. This was there was another one we did that was pretty difficult to do because it had chargers in the table, and the material stretch. I had to get all these little charger things to line up. Here comes the shop dogs. So we got 3 shop dogs here. Oh, finishing up. There's 3 shop dogs. That one right there, oh, it went real quick. I'll show you in another video. There's a Ollie, little fox terrier, rat terrier, one of those terrier dogs. There's Buster Brown. Buster Brown was, there was a homeless guy walking in front of the shop one day, and Frank traded a 2-liter of soda for a puppy. And we were told that's Ollie. The little one on the right was Buster Brown. We were told he's a Chihuahua pit bull. I don't know which one was the mom and which one was the dad, but that's quite a thing to picture. But he looks like he is. He looks like he could be one. He's short like a Chihuahua. He's little like a Chihuahua, but he's built kind of like a boxer, right? And then there's Roxy, the Basset Hound. That is David's dog. So Buster Brown is technically speaking, he's either a Chihuahua or a Pit Wawa. And I like them both equally. Drop a line in the comments. Let me know which one you like better, Pit Wawa or Chihuahua. So that's done. Moving on. I'm gonna try to find center here. You'll see me messing with the cameras. I'm trying to figure it out. I got a few cameras, and they're tiny little GoPros. I don't know what they could see. They have the wide angle mod on them. So sometimes I'm gonna move the camera and I don't need to, and I'll get over it. I'll stop that eventually. I just wanted to make sure you could see everything. So I'm checking center. I want to get center marks right because I have to determine where the seams are gonna go. The customer requested that the seams be in a certain position compared to the cup holders that are on another piece of wood that I don't have, but Matt has given me the dimensions where the seams will be. So right here, I'm going to glue I have the rail upside down. Here comes, now this is Roxy, and she's making a break for it very slowly. She's dragging the leash. She's not going to get out either. Spoiler alert. There she goes. She never gets away. She tries real hard, but she just never gets there. I think it might be her speed. I'm not sure. I lined that up with the bottom edge because I left the pieces a little big and I wanted the wood to guide my foam knife blade here. Because the other edge would be real weird to use for a guide. So I'm putting the side foam on. This is 1 inch. It's like a it's not a soft foam. It's like a medium density. It's what we would use to like repair seat foam and whatnot. Now right here, I'm gonna start putting the top foam on, and the rail is bigger than any of our rolls of foam, which kind of made this a little trickier. I think the table is like, it's something like 10 foot by 6 foot or something like that in that neighborhood. So I'm already thinking about where my seams are gonna be. And the reason for that is that because the foam our rolls aren't big enough, I'm going to have seams in my foam. And so I want the seams in the foam to fall directly under where the seams in the leather will be, because that will hide it, right? If you have a seam, in the middle of a piece of leather, it's going to show and they're going to be like, what's that? It's going to look like crap. And even on this part, these pieces of foam, I cut them all the way across the roll and they were like just not quite big enough. So I left them in this U shape, and you can't really tell, but I'm actually manipulating the foam a little bit and stretching it to get it to go all the way across the sides there. We've done a few of these tables for Matt, and this thing, it took around, I think it was somewhere around 12 hours to do this, and a lot of it was the foam. See, I'm messing with that camera. I'll get over it. Just just tolerate me, just humor me for a while. I'll figure it out. There's our guy from Keyston. We're up in Redding, California. Keyston's in Sacramento. And then the other guy there, that's Nick. He's a up and coming apprentice. He's been doing pretty good lately. He was, you know, I don't know if you guys train people the shop you work at, but we've grown a lot. We've grown from, we started out when I started with the shop, they had been open. Frank had the shop open for a year or two, and we were in basically what equivalent of about a 3-car garage. And now here goes a stutter step. Check out the little breakdance move I got going. I'm a dork. Anyway, but now this is a 4,000 square foot shop here, and then this is like the main shop, and then we have another 4,000, like a twin building next door that we do boats in. Frank's showing some customers around there. Back to the stutter step. I'm just gonna grind the edge here, get this where the side and the top foam meet. I'm just grinding that a little bit smoother. I'm gonna put some more foam on here. I'm gonna cover this whole thing with 1/2-inch scrim after this. And I just, the better the foam is, the easier it is to make the cover look good. That's how it always is. If you have a messed up foam, it's gonna be real difficult to make the cover look good. So I want this foam to be precision. I want a precision result. I'll mark right here. I'm going to go ahead and mark out my seams. At least the 4 that I'm doing right there, because that's where my seams in my foam are, and I know that's where at least that's where I want the 4 of the seams on the leather to be. So I'm going to use those marks for that purpose, to line up the foam. And I'm trying to figure out how to do this without wasting too much. I mean, we're going to use these little scraps, most of them, but you're always thinking about conserving materials, right? Yeah, so you might have noticed this. I got something on the screen right there, a little speck of foam. You see this air hose that I have on the floor, right? In other views, you might be able to see more of it. It's basically a rat's nest of air hose on the floor. And here's why. We have the reels. In the background, there's one over there. You can barely see it. We have the hose reels that you mount up high, and then you can just pull it down, and it retracts, and it's really, really cool. And because it's so hot where we are in most of the year in Northern California, the hoses rot. And so what starts out as like a 50-foot hose reel ends up, like the one over there right now is like 18 feet long. It's like virtually worthless. You can pull it down to hang over the table, and it goes about 10 more feet, and that's it. And we've had a bunch of them, and it's either that or the hose rots where it starts on the reel, and then you got to change the whole reel. And so we got to go next door from the guys next door and get their lift and come over here and change. It's a big mess. So that's why I have like kind of a rat's nested air hose on the floor that you'll see, and it is what it is. Yeah, that's sometimes how stuff in the shop is, right? It is what it is. I guess, now that I say all that, I was going to be like, what would you do in the comments? But I was thinking about it. I was like, well, why don't I just put a hose reel down low? Because the thing that seems to rot them is having them up high where the heat is, and the one on the floor doesn't rot. So I guess I can just put one down low. Glad I talked that through with you. So I'm just finishing up the foam here. I'm going to go ahead and that's Frank. That's David. There's several specs on the screen now, I guess, and I'll get those off there. I got to remember to clean the lens off. I'm just trying to attack this foam one little kind of section at a time. I don't want to get too much of it glued to where it's just a little bit too much to deal with. And I also want to make sure that I'm not having the foam stick to itself on the backside before I stick it down, because then it'll end up with a hard line, and that will show through the leather later. So I'm just gonna, when I'm pulling this up, I am pulling it a little bit. I'm stretching it around the corner there, just to avoid any of those lines I'm talking about. And I'm gonna the next part I think I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna do the bottom, and I'm gonna trim it up a little bit, make it a little bit more manageable. And then when I pull it around this bottom edge, I'm gonna have to pull it pretty good. So I'm actually, this is kind of like a double tack situation with the glue, because I really want it to stick good on that bottom edge. So I'm gonna glue both sides of everything, and then before I stick it, I think I even go back. Well, maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't do it on this. But if you want something to stick really, really good, extra good, I did do it right there. You tack both sides, just like you normally would, and then before you let it dry all the way, and then you come back and you just mist one side of it again. And for some reason, that's just give it like a super bond. That's something that we'll do in different instances. If you want something to get glued and definitely is not going to move, that's how you do it. You spray both sides, let it sit, let it dry all the way up, and then you just mist one side of it again and kind of reactivate one side. Yeah, and that whatever you glued, it's going to stick. The downside to that, though, is that if you put it in the wrong place, you're probably going to destroy something pulling it apart. So you have to use it wisely. So now I'm gluing this inside edge. The foam is not going to want to go up in there because of the angle of it. So I'm putting some relief cuts, and I'm trimming it just down to where the cuts aren't going to show, obviously. And now I'm going to trim all that up. Trimming it up, trimming it up, trimming it up. And I think we're about ready to start covering this thing now. The foam's done. That's what the razor blade means. That part's done. Okay, so right here what I'm doing is I have the 4 seams on the sides, and those are basically straight pieces. And I'm trying to figure out, I want 2 more seams on the end. And I'm trying to figure out how to find my center now with the foam on it. I want to recheck the center. And what I came up with was I used the center off of the wood, and I made a little piece of cardboard, and I just went from the seam to the center. And then I multiplied that by 2 to give me the whole area, the whole circumference, or the half, halfway around the end there. And then I divided that by 3, and then I cut my little piece of cardboard down, and now that's what I'm doing at this point, is I'm putting those end seams on there. It took me a while to figure out how to do that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm pretty good at math, but that was a little tricky one for me. So now I have the seams on the end, and I'm just using a tack strip, a straight piece of cardboard, and I'm wrapping those seams around. I think I drew them in chalk on the ends, so you can't really see them. And of course, I went back, and once I had all these drawn on there, I went back and checked that they were all the same. And the main reason for that was for symmetry, for looks when it's done. And then also because by doing that, by making everything equal, I have less pieces to pattern. All right, so now what I'm doing is I've taken some vinyl, just some cheap vinyl, and I'm going to make the patterns of the pieces that I'm going to use, and then I'll transfer these patterns to the leather to save on the leather. I don't want to be making all my patterns with the leather. I'd waste a bunch of leather, right? And the leather's not cheap. And because of the way I made it, I'm only actually going to have to pattern 3 pieces. The side pieces are just rectangles, so I'm going to make those off of measurements. I'm not even going to make a pattern of that. And then there'll be basically 2 patterns for the circles on the end. There's the very center piece will be one pattern, and then the one that I just did is the other one. And what I did was I pulled that down to the wood when I had the weights on there, and I just added 2 inches. I drew the line at the wood, and then I add 2 inches, and that will give me enough to pull without wasting material. Especially with something like this, on the when I start to do the bottom edge, if I don't have enough to pull, this would just be, oh, it'd be terrible. So now I'm doing the second piece, the end piece, and you'll see me go around, and I'm just like checking that everything is very, very close to the same or an opposite. So this piece will work for this side, and then the other side, obviously the same piece on the other side, and then the first piece I made will work for the other 4 parts of the corners. And anytime I'm doing something like a custom type thing like this with some expensive material, I'm always going to, waste a little vinyl to just do a little test sample. And now I got the leather out. This is the focus line of leather from Eureka Leather, which is also, I believe, somewhere down around Sacramento. And this focus line is really nice. It's plush feeling. It's doesn't have a lot of flaws in it. You see I've marked a couple little spots right on the edge. But all leather is not equal. Like if you work, that, right? And if you buy cheap leather, you're going to get cheap leather. And this is not a cheap project. And so we got the good stuff. We got some good stuff for it. I don't know everything there is to know about leather. There's a lot of different things to know about it, but this is some nice stuff. The focus line from Eureka Leather. I believe you have to have you're going to have an account and stuff, but. So I'm marking out those 2 rectangles. This took about 2 hides to do this job because the pieces, although there's not that many pieces, they're big. They're large pieces. So I'm just using my patterns. I'm numbering each piece. The seam, so it's just real easy to put it together. And I'm just checking for flaws as I go here. I give it a preliminary inspection, but then as I'm going through it, sometimes you look at it different from a different angle. Sometimes you got to check the back of the hide. You don't want to finish a project like this and then look at the top of it and there's a giant, somewhere where the cow, broke out of a barbed wire fence or something. So now I've got my pieces up here and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start sewing these together. But even at this point, I'm not sure. I know I've done everything right. Everything should be looking good. But I'm going to sew a couple pieces together here and I'm going to check what's going on. And I remember this from the first one I did because the first one I did with Matt, I did this part and I put it up there and it was, once the leather stretched, everything was way off. So I'm putting it up here with just a couple pieces and I'm quickly realizing that I've forgotten to do something. So now what we're going to do is we're taking the pieces I made out of leather and we're pre-stretching them. And it's actually, I would say probably at least a ½ inch per piece. There were pieces maybe an inch that I had to take off. And if I hadn't pre-stretched this, so you see Frank is holding that on the seam and I'm pre-stretching it, getting all the wrinkles out. And if you don't do this, it will be so much harder to install. This does make it harder in that it's pre-stretched. And you're going to see as we go along here, so there's some areas this leather is tight when I'm trying to work with it. But the alternative to that, is having wrinkles on the inside edge that you're trying to figure out how to stretch out of this thing once you're already started and kind of to the point of no return. So it's important to pre-stretch the leather. That's the moral of the story. In a circumstance like this. Yeah, because basically what would have happened is if I did not realize that I needed to pre-stretch it, was I would have French seamed this whole thing together, which, that's going to take me a while. So I'm going to waste a bunch of time, and then I'm going to put it on there, and I'm going to realize if I do start stapling it on, there's the slim chance that I'm going to just basically ruin 2 hides of leather, right? Or I'm going to have to take all my French and, cut everything apart, and now you're dealing with maybe you don't have enough material anymore, and hey, what's up? So I have 3 cameras. This is the 3rd angle. I'm going to show you a little bit of the sewing. the other one is the overhead camera, and then there was the one on the patterning table. So I'm trying to get used to maneuvering between all the cameras, and I got 3 of them because I don't want to be spending a lot of time with the cameras because we're trying to make money, right? I'm trying to work and make money. But now you see I've got this thing all sewed up. It's pre-stretched. I'm checking before I do my French seams. I want to get in here and check and make sure that the seams are lining up. I'm happy with that. The seams lined up. All right, so right here, that material I have is it's basically like the dust cover, or it's the stuff that goes underneath furniture. I think it's decking. I could be wrong on that, but it goes under furniture, but it's not, there's different like kinds of that stuff. This is not the super stretchy, like you can just rip it apart with your hands. This is a more solid version of that same thing. And I'm going to use this to back my French seams. I don't always back my French seams. It's kind of a case-by-case, job-by-job type situation. A French seam basically, it can be the strongest seam if it's backed. If it's not backed, it's not that strong. And I'm going to back my French seams anytime that it's either a higher-end type job, or if there's any potential for the French seam to be spread open when I'm stretching it. And because I've already pre-stretched this leather, I know that there's going to be a little pressure in that direction on the French seams. So I wanted to use a black material. And I also, when I'm doing the back seam part of the French seam, like say for instance the French seam, the part that you see is going to be like a 7. When I do the back seam, the initial seam, I'm going to cut my stitch down to about a 4. And that tightens up that center part, and it just makes it less likely that that's going to spread open and you're going to be able to see anything underneath, right? That's without a backing. I'm using this material because it's black, it's strong, and it's going to just further eliminate the possibility that you're going to see any of that pink foam through the seam. Because I don't want that. It's not good. It's not professional. We don't do that. We're professional. We're professionals around here. Yeah, another thing that you're going to notice here is that because this is a circle, every time that I do a French seam, I'm going to have to take and pull the material back out through under the needle, right? It's a little stressful. Because if your foot slips on the pedal, if you just don't have the needle all the way up, if you're not paying attention, you're gonna scratch the leather, right? And if you've done this, if you've done upholstery, if you've run a sewing machine, your foot has slipped before, and hopefully your finger wasn't under there. I've been fortunate. I've never sewed my finger. Even I don't know how. I've been very fortunate. I have, however, dropped the foot on my finger before. I had the foot locked up, and then I don't know what I did, but I had my hand under there and I dropped that foot, and that pressure foot, that hurts. I'm gonna tell you, it does not feel good. So I'm finishing up that French seam. I'm not gonna show too much of this stuff. It's just the same thing over and over, but you will notice here, I didn't show it. But I do have to pull this whole thing back under the needle. It's kind of stressful. So now I'm just going to go through and I'm going to trim all the excess, that material and whatever excess leather there was on the outside of my French seam, because that stuff will all show. The other reason why I use this material too was because the backing material that I did is because it's thin. I didn't want anything bulky that was going to make the seam stand up any more than they would without it. So now I'm just going to go through here and I'm just getting everything where it goes before I get started. And if you remember, I said I put 2 inches extra. So I'm going to go around to my seams here. I'm going to set the inside first, and I'm just remarking 2 inches. That way I'm actually getting my material where I intend it to be. So when I set that first on the inside, I'm going to set it on that mark basically. Yeah, so we're gonna start putting this thing together now, and the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the seams. I'm going to set my seams, and I'm going to do just like I was talking about earlier. I don't show it, but when I put the first few staples in these seams, I'm going to go in a little further than my final staple line is, and that's for the same reason. If I'm off a little bit, I want to have a little margin for error. I don't want to be stapling these first few staples right on the edge of the wood or something, because then if I'm off, I'm going to pull it up. There's a chance that the holes could show in the leather. So I'm getting the seams all set in place so that when I start yanking on this thing and wrenching it around and whatnot, the seams hopefully will not move. So I'm just putting them right where I had my marks, right? And the first thing that's going to happen here after the seams is I'm going to do the inside round part. And you can see already, as I'm pulling this thing into place, look at that leather tightening up around that inner corner. And I'm even having to go so far as to I'm having to cut the leather to get these seams to go on the corners. You'll see me do it here real quickly. I cut right there, and I'm just making sure that I'm not cutting beyond that 2-inch mark that I made, right? I want to be well on the right side of that mark when I make my cuts. And there's also a little prayer happening here as I cut these and I pull it around. I'm like, please don't rip. Leather gods, please don't let this leather rip. Yeah, but it didn't rip. It didn't rip. The prayer worked. So this side, I'm going to zoom in a little. This side, I don't know if I pulled the leather tighter on this side or if it's just because this is the last side that I'm doing, but it's tighter than the other side was. And so you see me going through here, I'm putting relief cuts in, and I'm like, man, this thing's tight. I hope that I can get these seams around here. I have to. There's not even a hope about it. I have to, right? So I got my relief cuts in. I'm trying to. It's tight, guys. That's all. I don't know what else to say. It's always seems to be like the last side you do. You know, in upholstery, when you're doing upholstery too, like if somebody brings you 5 of a chair that you're gonna do, or 5 of whatever, you know, the first one always a little rough, you know. And then by the time you get to the 5th one, you're real good at them. And then you don't do anymore for 4 years or something. And that's sort of, we've done, I think, probably 4 of these tables, around 4. But they're always a year or 2 apart. So I'm grateful that my memory is good enough to remember the things that I remember. So this is the last seam right here. So I'm pulling all the tension from everywhere else. It's all coming out in this last seam I'm putting over. It all worked out good though. I'm happy with the results. All right, now once I have these seams in place, I'm gonna flip this thing over. I'm looking for help. Okay, I got help. We flipped it over. And now I'm gonna set this inside edge. Now because it is tight. In fact, my seam popped loose right there, I think, or I took it loose. It's very tight, but the benefit of that is that all I have to do is get it pulled around and put it in place and staple it. I don't have to worry about any wrinkles, which is what you do not want to be dealing with wrinkles at this point, because there's nowhere for them to go. Like if you're doing a board or something square or anything where you can pull the wrinkle out, there's nowhere for them to go on this. It has to be good when you pull it around. I was talking earlier about not stapling right on the edge of the wood. I really never do that. We'll have, when a new guy starts, sometimes that's how they'll start stapling stuff. They want to go right on the edge of the wood. I will generally put my staples about 1 inch in. And, it's just what I got used to doing. It looks good. And the other thing is that, if you do have to move something, you have that inch worth of material to shift around. Whereas if you staple too close to the edge of the wood, you leave yourself no room for error, right? So I'm getting this whole inner edge set. And I'm not putting all the staples in. I'm putting probably about half as I go around. And now I'm going to start on this outside edge. I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of things that we do in upholstery, pretty much everything that will make your hands sore. In my experience, this particular job, this particular part of this job is the king of hurting your hands. On the outside edge of this thing, the leather has to be pulled as tight as you possibly can, and then a little bit more. And so what I'm doing here, I will slow down at some point and show you, but what I'm doing is I'm going to the center between my seams. I'm trying to grab as much of that leather as I can. I'm not just pulling like with my finger. I'm pulling with my whole hand, and I'm trying to get a big area of it. And I'm stretching that stuff up and around as tight as I possibly can. And then I'm holding it there, and then I'm rubbing it with my thumb and my other hand, and I'm trying to push it over just a little bit more, because if there's going to be wrinkles, and it's going to be here because the outside was looser than the inside, and so you have to put that much pressure on it to get rid of any wrinkles and stretch everything out and make it look good. And you know, this is the very bottom edge. Nobody's ever going to get down there unless they're like laying on the ground. You know, maybe they had a party and they're drunk under the poker table. You know what I mean? Yeah, they might see it then. I don't think somebody's going to wake up hungover laying on the floor and be like, oh man, there's a wrinkle in the leather right there. I don't think that's what they're going to be thinking about, right? But anyway, that's what I'm doing now. And it is just... I don't know if you see it anywhere in the videos, but there were several times where I just had to stop and shake my hands because they're just, oh my gosh, they were hurting. I actually have gotten from a doctor that I went to, he gave me this like wax bath because I have arthritis in my hands now. And when they're really bad, I can come home and I have this wax. It's like something you would see in a salon or wherever the ladies go to get a pedicure or manicure. It's like this thing you dip your hands in, and the wax sticks to your hands, and you dip them in there a few times, and it gets nice and hot, and that just relieves all that pain in your hands. It's nice. Yeah, we actually have some salon stuff in here right now. Look at all the people. This is like an average. This is average around here. There's always there's people working, there's people visiting, there's dogs, there's customers, there's, people love to come to the shop. I think especially guys, we get a lot of guys that come in that just hang out, see what's going on, talk fishing stories. Frank and David, they're big fishermen, hunters. They're always talking about fishing, hunting, and people love to be at the shop. It's just always amazed me how that is. It's like if there's a man working, I saw a comedian talking about it. If there's a guy working, all his neighbors are going to come over and see what he's doing, right? And that's what happens at the shop. So this is the last side. I haven't really even done the straight parts yet because I'm not worried about those at all. That's not going to be difficult. I'm putting about half of about half the staples that will be in here at the end. So I'm going to show you one little part of this. So I'm grabbing this whole area. Look how hard I'm pulling it. I mean, I'm wrenching on that thing. Oh! I'm trying to get pumped up to finish this thing, and probably talking some smack too. In fact, I'm sure I was right there. See, I pulled it around tight as I can get it, then I'm using my thumb, and then I set it. So I'm getting the wrinkles out, and now I'm going to go to the center, my new center. So I went to the center between the seams, and now I'm going to go to the center between that center and the seam, and I'm just going to keep going center, 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 rub it with the thumb. And I'm getting all the wrinkles out, and I'm compressing the foam all the way down. There's a little 1/2 inch of foam on that edge there. And, oh, yeah, the hands are tore up at this point. I can't tell because the video's sped up, but I'm sure I'm slowing down. But, I'm wore out, but I'm also pumped up to get this thing done. I'm going to have one more look at it here. I want to have one more look at it and check my seams, and I have that last seam got just a little bit wonky. Everything's fine, it's passable, but I see it's just like a little bit crooked. Just a little bit. And this is, this is the type of job I don't want any of that. So I had to undo some of those staples that I just worked so hard to put in there. Yeah, I think what also made this thing like a little more difficult than normal is if you notice, I'm not just like having to pull the staple gun up there and staple something flat, right? I'm having to go like up over the top and back in, up over the top and back in, up over, keep over and over and over and over again, right? Now I'm gonna do these. I'm almost there. We're almost there. I'm setting the straight part. Now I'm going back and I'm putting all the staples in, filling in the gaps, finishing up the straight sides, laying down on the job a little bit. I think I earned it. I earned a momentary laying on the table there. we talked about being under the table. I'm getting on top of the table. You got to get inside the table. Got to go up over the top, around the outside of the table. I mean, upholstery is a full contact sport, people. I don't know if you know that, but I might have said that before, but I don't know. It is. I'm going to say it again. I'll probably say it again, too. Rubbing with the thumb. Man, that thumb I'm rubbing with, that thing was just done after this. This is one of those jobs, you get done with this thing and you go home and you know you worked. You worked that day. At least your hands did. This is Nick. This is Nick right here. He's been with us for a few years. He's doing a great job. Real hard worker. Good attitude. Always shows up. He's doing really well. We have another guy. He works in the boat shop mainly. James is from London. That's him there. He just popped in there. I think that's him. Anyway, he's from London. He went to fashion school. He's been with us for, I don't know, a decade or something, and he's a really good upholsterer too, and he does a lot of canvas work. And before he worked for us, at some point in the past, he used to make like those rubber Catwoman suits for models. And he was telling us about that one day in the beginning when he first started, and I remember he showed us some pictures of the models with these suits on, and one of the guys just goes, "Why'd you quit that job?" Yeah, you never know how you're going to get into upholstery. He went to fashion school for it. All right, so we're buttoning this thing up here. There's this other time that they have this thing up real close to us. It's like an annual pancake breakfast, and like a lot of people show up to this thing. It's just out in the street, and I think it's the Asphalt Cowboys, this local deal. They put it on, and then there's like this fake bank robbery, and everybody looks for the loot, and this whole deal, right? So we all go to this pancake breakfast, and there's thousands of people there. And there's a sign that says, whoever came the furthest for the pancakes wins. There was a raffle or what, $100, whatever it was. I don't remember. And so somebody goes, hey, James came from London. And the lady's like, oh, really? She says, well, say something in English. And he goes, pancake. He didn't win the prize. I don't know if the sign was fake or what. I don't know. Maybe you had to be there. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not that funny. I thought it was a funny story, though. Looks like we're about to finish this thing up, guys. The razor blade's out. Don't forget to go over and check out Matt's Woodworks. Link in the description. And if there's anything in particular you'd like to see, drop a comment down there, and I'll do my best to get it going. I've got these cameras set up full time now. I'm not recording all the time. I do have a couple of pretty cool cars that I'm working on the videos for those right now. So be sure to subscribe. And here is James. James in the gray shirt, Nick in the orange shirt. James is Pancake Man. I don't know if he's going to appreciate that, but I don't know. I love that story, man. Anyway, that's it. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching.